gosh, I got into real estate when, well, I'd been in the restaurant business. Well, early on, I'd studied art in high school. We had 4 hours a day of art. Did a lot of art. Anyway, and then I had a scholarship to the Art Institute of Dallas, full paid, but kind of I lost the joy of it for some reason. Got kind of a perfectionist. And I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. So I worked secretary, worked restaurant, married into a restaurant, family business, and was a waitress, and it's a lot of on your feet, hard work, and so.
Some people are rude.
Yeah, you learn a lot doing that.
But the serving people aspect is valuable in any industry.
It is. It really is, and then you get a lot of grace, hopefully, for a lot of situations. But anyway, so we started having a family, and my daughter was first born, and I think everyone has this. You want a home. You want a home that's your own, and it was truly a godsend that we got our home, and it was a HUD home, and just kind of learned a lot through that process, and just was, thank God for my house, that I have a house. And we've been there 27 years, same house. But anyway, so then so I was a stay-at-home mom, and I wanted a career of some sort. Didn't know. I was like, well, what can I do that I can still put my family first and have potential, and be with my kids, because I had 2 in diapers, and I was like, what could I do that would make enough money for me to pay daycare, and that just didn't make sense. So anyway, so I got into real estate, and then we opened another restaurant, and we forgot all the reasons why we were not liking the restaurant. Anyway, so then, but I kept my license active from '97 to now. So even all those 7 years that we were in the last restaurant business, I was still active, but I wasn't really using it, but still continuing education. Anyway, that's my history on that part. So I'm here because I was praying in my journal, writing. I'd never really written prayers to God, but I think, like He is the Word, so when we write it down, I don't even know how it all works, but I feel like sometimes it's like Wi-Fi. Like you hit send on email, and He can get it, It seemed to be like that. Anyway, I don't know. But I had written, where should I be? Should I grow my own company as myself? Should I join a company I'd been with before that I had left? And I had all these, what do I do? Processing with God. And the very next day, Johnny called me. And I was like, is that you, God? So I didn't really trust it. But so I joined and then left. And anyway, long story. I'm making long still. But anyway, here I am today. And so I want to talk about rentals. So part of my real estate journey, I was with a company that was a property management company, and I handled calls from every county around, from Denton to Fort Worth to here, and they had me running all over the place for rentals. And so I learned the hard way, a lot of things throughout my life, the hard way. But anyway, so if you are working with rentals, we really want you to concentrate on sales. But if that's not working out, or you do have someone who, that needs a rental, and you feel like you can help them, you ask them pre-qualifying questions, just like you do for a sale. You want to know if you can help them, and to gently know when you can't, yeah, because some of my best clients came from Section 8, helping Section 8 people, but that is just like, oh my gosh, I can't even do that anymore. But if you do have those, there is a company that will take, Main Street Renewal usually will take Grand Prairie housing vouchers, and they don't pay much at all, but it's like $200. But anyway, yeah. Okay, so I'm kind of going rabbit trails here, but
Section 8 is, or housing vouchers are good for 50-mile radius of that town. So, and I know this because I used to have some people that were on Rockwall, and it was easier to get on Rockwall than it was like Mesquite or Dallas.
Yeah, Dallas,
But
it's
they
like
could go all the
impossible.
way to past Greenville, they could go down to Kaufman, they could go to Terrell, you know, so it had a sphere around it. And that's when they explained to me it had a 50-mile radius.
Yeah, so it can be a challenge, right? But
Oh, they're a bear.
and nobody really wants
Honey,
to take them, so it's
more
hard.
paperwork and sell the
Yeah.
house on Section 8.
But I have had some of my best clients and referrals from them
Oh, they
from
love you.
early on helping.
They
you
love
know.
you. They stay there forever.
Yeah,
And then they love you and you're their best friend.
yeah.
But, you know, if you can encourage them to work on credit, to build their credit, to learn to
You
save,
can get them, yeah.
and then
into
they
the
can
house.
become a homeowner.
Yeah. So I usually don't help them anymore because it is so hard unless they have a certain voucher. But yeah. So, but if you do have rentals and you do want to work them and can help them, then you know, you want to ask them if they have good rental history. If they've got any broken leases, then you know, it can be a challenge. They'll check credit history, rental history, income. If there's any bankruptcies, a lot of them won't take them if they're within the last 7 years. Criminal history, that can be a difficult one. Pets, we know if there's any pit bulls, that sort of thing. It's like almost nobody wants a pit bull or a Rottweiler, you know. So some of them I'm just like, I'm sorry, I can't help you. But that's hard for me to say that, you know.
You know, rentals 3 times, pretty much standard. You know, the new home down the street, investor bought for rental, pretty much rule of thumb is they have to have 3 times the rent
Yeah.
for income coming into the household.
Yeah, and some of them are 4, but really rarely. Most of them are 3.
That's a
And
lot.
if it's an apartment, they usually want 2.5 times the rent amount. So they can qualify easier for an apartment than for a realtor leased house generally. And so, yeah, so that leads me to, okay, yeah, there's so many things you could talk about all this. So I was trying to keep it short and sweet, but I kind of go in rabbit trails sometimes in my thoughts. But yeah, do any of y'all work rentals currently?
If we have to.
Yeah, oh, that's great.
I've never actually had a successful closing of a rental.
Okay.
But I have helped a handful of people over the years, more as a courtesy and a service, hoping that I would eventually get them as a sale, or that they would refer their friends. But Yolanda Shepard on my team is our resident expert, if you will. She's done quite a few of them and has learned a lot of the different rabbit trails, if you will, and learned some of the hard knocks and whatnot. And she's really good. So I usually refer all mine to her. And then Jay and Tricia have recently done a few rentals as well,
Okay.
successfully. So
I met someone when I first started real estate, and I was out showing for a rental as well at that point. But I met an agent, and we, you know, I never met a stranger. We just started talking. We were out front of the house, and he was in a hurry, and I was like, "You have a lot of papers in your hand." And he said, "I lease 6 to 8 properties a week."
wow.
Wow. It could be great. Yeah.
Yeah, so you figure what you make on 6 to 8 rental properties in a week. That's a whole lot more than, it's probably close to the same as 2 sales in a month as far as income.
Well, let me tell you, it's been about 2 years ago, she had a client, her name was Nancy, out of Terrell, that she leased her house, and I had a rentor for it, and just last week, we are now selling her home to that renter. So,
Well,
I mean,
and she called us because he said, "I think there's something in that rental agreement that says I'm to call you if my tenant decides to buy." Well, I didn't know if it just covered during that period. It doesn't, because they never
Depends on
renewed.
how you fill it out.
Well, it's the
Yeah.
way it was filled out by track.
Mm.
It said as long as that tenant is still occupying that home, we're to be paid. And we're being paid. So, on the sale, they agreed to you know, the little tenant met someone, has a husband, fiance, whatever now, and says, let's buy this house, I'll pay for it for you,
Cash.
cash. So, sugar daddy paid off, huh?
Yeah. Well, so I know as a company, we don't offer property management services, but we do want to list homes for lease if we can. And so when I do that, I've personally used mysmartmove.com to qualify them to, you know, and you can have them pay directly through that, where it'll do a criminal background check and check their credit and that sort of thing. Also, I usually have them send me 2 or 3 months worth of, like if they're an employee, 2 or 3 months worth of proof of income, and then the TAR application, and you can find that online. And so that's how I do it when I list a rental. But each property, if you're helping somebody rent something, each property may have a different process. Some of them are online, and so it's kind of case by case. It's just, you know, you got usually underneath the picture in MLS there'll be the little documents, and they'll usually have the process right there, or in the description, or the just under the description in the MLS and what their process is. But it would be great if it was kind of a uniform thing, but it's you know, it's a discovery. So you kind of find the house, and then you like, okay, what's your process, you know, for the person. But if you go to apartments, if you have trouble, if somebody can't qualify or can't quite make the criteria or find what they want in income, rent amount or whatever, there's apartments. So you can actually get paid for apartments too, for apartment locating. And when I've done that, I was actually with a broker years ago, I can't remember what years now, and she specialized in apartment locating, so she taught me a little bit. And so if you go to, okay, there are databases out there, and I put those on here at the bottom, but and those are smart locating and ALN systems. If you want to test out smart locating, I actually sent everybody a link a while back. It actually gives me a little credit if y'all do sign up, but don't feel any pressure to sign up.
What does this other thing say?
Apartmentregistration.com. So if you don't sign up for a service, there's some properties, they have to be large enough to be listed with these services that I've listed here. If they're smaller communities, they're probably not in the database, but I forget how many units they have to be in here. But and so you can go, this is a free one, go register at apartmentregistration.com, and it'll have like Lincoln Properties, Gray Star, and I think it's like 12 different ones are there. And so if you get a client for lease, you can put your client information in there, and you know, if they have an interest in a certain one, or you kind of think, or however you find it, but you can register your client there. And so, and it'll give you a confirmation number, a registration number, and you want to know, you know, if they have a floor plan preference, or, you know, income, or really the biggest thing is their name and their phone number, and when do they want to move in. And so if you register those things on that, and they end up going, you want to have them put your name down as how they found this property. So on any guest cards or leases. So their first visit to the property, if they're your client, have them make sure, you know, how did you hear about this property? It was from you, you know, your name. And then when they sign a lease too, again, they need to put your name there. And if they've done those things and they end up renting, then you should be able to get paid. So, and you got to follow up. Sometimes it's like pulling teeth to actually get paid on them. Mm-hmm. But sometimes it's really great. The best one I've ever had was about $1,900. So, and then the least I've ever gotten was about $150. But you know, it depends on the property. And now, a few of them.
Yes, so.
Yeah.
If I found $150 on the ground, I'd pick it up.
And the nice part about those is, like, if you get if you happen to, like, depends on your sphere, if it's even worth going after or not. You know, if you're running across a bunch of people that love uptown, you know, that love to live around the medical district or around downtown Dallas and those big complexes, those usually pay really nice and easy. Some of them will pay like 100% or 200% of the first month's rent. So it depends on your clientele if it's even worth going after, but it can be. So, yeah.
Oh, interesting, I didn't know you, I mean, I have been paid on apartments, but like you said, it's like pulling teeth.
Yeah. Oh, and there are some of them will use, they'll say approved locator only, and you just ask them, how do I become an approved locator? And I've previously gotten approved with several properties, and some of them were too much of a pain in the, you know what, where they wanted you to register with this thing called Compliance Depot, and I think it cost me like $80 a year to stay registered with the property. And we can do that if it's worthwhile, and I have done it, and it was worthwhile, but if you're not getting consistent, you know, rentals, then it, you know, I fell off of that, you know, quit paying, you know. But most of them are not that difficult. Like if you got Deep Ellum, I had a guy, he calls me every year, he wants to move, and it's usually worth, I think the whole subscription that I pay for smart locating is about $374 a year, because I just go ahead and pay for it for a year, and if I get one lease, it was worth it, you know. And so, yeah. Anyway, any questions about that?
This form, or do we need to have our client sign this and put it in
yeah.
our file?
Yeah, the other form is when we do list a property for lease, we're supposed to, legally required to or if you're helping somebody for lease, we're supposed to give them rental criteria. You know, like what is your basis for someone being approved for this property? And you know, if they didn't get that legally, they're supposed to get their application fee back. So, so a lot of companies, if you see under a rental, under the picture, they'll have the little criteria right there usually. Just like for a listing, it'll be the seller's disclosure or survey or whatever. And so I went ahead and did this rental criteria. So if you do list, you just talk to your seller about, you know, do they want any pets? You know, how strict do they want to be? And so you can probably modify this if you've got a really lenient guy, but this is pretty basic to. I think it'll help the company. Yeah. Anyway. All right. Any more
Very
questions?
good. Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
She had her time on set right there.
My truck driver just